For 4 days, someone lived on this farm, with 6 dead bodies. He fed the cattle. He cooked meals in the kitchen. Smoke rose from the chimney every single day. Neighbors saw it and thought nothing was wrong. They had no idea that every member of the family, including 2 children, was already dead in the barn. This is the true story of Hinterkaifeck. And to this day, nobody knows who did it. March 1922. A small, isolated farm called Hinterkaifeck, deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany. Surrounded by forest. No close neighbors. The nearest village was over a mile away. Living here, Andreas Gruber, the farm owner. His wife, Cecilia. Their widowed daughter, Victoria. And Victoria's 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia Jr. and 2-year-old Joseph. A new maid had just been hired. Her name was Maria Baumgartner. She arrived on the farm on the same day she would die. In the days before the murders, strange things started happening. Andreas found footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest, straight to the farmhouse. But when he traced them backward, they didn't come from anywhere. They just started. In the middle of nowhere. Then he found a newspaper on the property. Nobody in the family recognized it. Nobody had bought it. Then the house keys went missing. And at night, Andreas and the others swore they heard footsteps in the attic. Walking. Pacing. Someone or something was above them. Andreas mentioned this to a neighbor. He said he thought someone was watching the farm. He was right. And nobody listened. On the night of March 31st, 1922, someone entered the property. One by one, they lured or led 4 members of the family, Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia, into the barn. Each one was killed with a ruthake and a mattock, a farming tool with a pickaxe-like blade. Investigators believe they may have been killed one at a time, possibly without realizing what was happening to the person before them. Then the killer went back into the house. 2-year-old Joseph was killed in his crib. The new maid, Maria, who had arrived that very day, who barely had time to unpack, was murdered in her room. 6 people. One night. One weapon. Here's where the story becomes something almost impossible to comprehend. The killer didn't run. For the next several days, someone stayed on the Hinterkaifeck farm. They fed the livestock. They made meals in the kitchen. Investigators later found half-eaten food and evidence that the stove had been used repeatedly. Smoke rose from the chimney every day, just like always. From the outside, nothing looked wrong. Neighbors saw smoke. They assumed the family was simply keeping to themselves. Meanwhile, 6 bodies lay stacked in the barn, covered with hay by the killer himself. Little Cecilia Jr., the 7-year-old, was found with signs suggesting she may have survived the initial attack. Some reports say she was found with hair pulled out, as though she had regained consciousness under the hay and tried to claw her way free, alone in the dark, before dying. By April 4th, 4 days later, neighbors grew concerned. Nobody had seen the family in town. The children hadn't been to school. A group finally went to check on them. What they found became one of the most notorious crime scenes in German history. All 6 victims in the barn, covered in hay, killed by the same weapon that was later found cleaned and put away in the shed. Investigators believed the killer knew the property, knew the layout, knew the family's routine, knew exactly where to find the murder weapon. This wasn't a random attack. Dozens of suspects were investigated over the decades. A former neighbor who had reportedly stalked Victoria. A rejected suitor. Even Victoria's own late husband. Some theorized he never actually died in the war and had secretly returned. None were ever charged. In 2007, German police reopened the case using modern forensic science and DNA analysis on evidence still in storage. They still couldn't identify the killer. The Hinterkaifeck farmhouse was eventually torn down. But the case has never been closed. Over 100 years later, we still don't know who watched that family from the attic. We still don't know who stayed behind and lived among the dead for 4 days, feeding animals and making meals like nothing had happened. Somewhere, someone knew exactly what they'd done. And they simply continued their day. If this story disturbed you as much as it disturbed me, subscribe, because next time, I'm covering a case even fewer people know about.